Welcome to Add Screenshots, and today's video we'll look at how to master the Screenshot API. We'll look at standard GET requests, we'll look at POST requests, we'll look at how to use API keys, what they are, where to get them from. We'll also look at how you can secure your API, REST API calls using API security features, and then finally we'll also look at signed URLs. Okay, so if I go, let's go to our home page. So in here, I'm currently logged in. I have created an account and I want to take, for example, a single page screenshot of google.com. Enabled some of the other advanced settings for compression. I've enabled that, PNG image, viewport, the screen resolution, and take the screenshot, let's say from Australia East. So let's go ahead and take a screenshot. Okay, as we can see at the bottom here, here's our screenshot of the Google page. And here's essentially the URL that we have to use to create the screenshot. So here's our API key. This is the region that we're taking it from, and here's essentially the URL. So if we open this in a new tab, yep, we can see the web page loaded successfully now. So let's go ahead and close that. Or essentially we could modify some of the URL details here as well. So this is really a standard GET request. So let's jump into Postman. So we could see here's our API key that was part of the URL query string taken off Google, and let's just send that off. So he's just taken a screenshot here. Here's an example of a POST request. So in here, what we want to do as part of our headers, we could add the API key in there. We could add the API key as part of the URL query string, or we could add the API key in the body as well. So in this example, we want to take a full page screenshot using this screen resolution of the cloudflare.com. So let's go ahead and send it off. Okay, and here's our full page screenshot of Cloudflare. So let's have a look at where we got those API keys from. So now that I'm logged in, I can just go to the dashboard. Actually, the dashboard would show you the number of requests that you've used for the month. You can also see some of the details on the usage logs, but let's go to API keys. And as we can see, that's the API key that I've used. Note that there's two API keys. The first API key is essentially one you could use in production. So if you ever wanted to regenerate it or invalidate that API key, which I'll do after this video to make sure that these API keys are not exposed to the public, I can just click regenerate, and that takes about 30 seconds. And then in the meanwhile, you could use the secondary API key as well. So let's go ahead and try that. So let's regenerate the API key. Okay, let's copy our new API key. Throw that into our standard GET request. Oh, actually, keep the old one first. Let's try taking a screenshot with the old API key. Okay, we could see that the API key is no longer valid. Replace it with a new API key. Take a screenshot again. And we can see that's how I've quickly replaced the API key. One of the other things that we might want to do as well, so that's the primary and the secondary one. If we go on to manage API security, we could lock down who could use that API key based on a particular IP address, or you can specify a list of IP addresses, perhaps the refer or domain name if this runs from your domain. We'll go into that with signed URLs soon. Also the country codes. So for example, you could say this could only be used from the US or from Australia. Then you could lock down the use of that API key based on those particular country codes. And that takes about 30 seconds to apply as well, and users would then be blocked if they are not within those countries. Hopefully that makes sense. If I go back to my screenshot here on this page, there's also the ability to sign URL. So if we open this in a new tab, okay, so here's the request details that was signed with the API key. See the region is Australia, this is the viewport, and this is the quality. So let's say I want to adjust any of the parameters, so 81. You would say straight away, no, that didn't match the signature of the request. Or if we try to change something else, like take a screenshot of something else, such as Cloudflare. that'll also fail. So it's only when the requests match exactly how you signed it, then that would work. So this is quite good to embed this exact URL, exact parameters like you wanted, and then you could host that publicly on your website. You could also add caching and features like that to it. So let's see how that works. So remember, on our API key, that's really what this public and secret key is used for. So if we go here under documentation, we'd find some details on how to do that, and there's some descriptions in there. Essentially, or you could use this user interface as well. So let's say this is our token that we've generated, but we could also, let's say, change this to HTTPS. And you see the token would look slightly different, so it must match that exactly, and any other URL query string parameters that you're after. So once you get your token and use your public key, it will then generate this URL for you that you could then use to secure that request. One thing to notice, make sure that, for example, your if this was so regenerate that. See, this is URL encoded, so make sure that when you sign it, that's also URL encoded. If you wanted to sign your images or these screenshot requests programmatically, you could choose something like Node.js or use JavaScript. There's some examples here as well, how to use it in PowerShell, or how to use the cryptography in C# or any other language that you'd like to use to do that programmatically from your API, and then you could expose that on your website. So just to recap again, so we looked at how to use the API, how to use GET request. We made some POST requests. We looked at API keys, where to get them from, the primary and the secondary API key. We looked at API security features. So that included locking it down per IP, per country, or per domain. And then we also looked at how to use the public and the private API keys in order to create signed URLs. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.